All right, let's do this. Happy Friday. It is July 21st. Hope you're having a great day. And let's start. We're going to start by going macro, looking at the nationwide economy and markets, and then zooming in, landing in Denver, Colorado, where I and lots of you happen to live. So let's jump in. First, I'm going to tell you a story real quick. The headlines we're going to look at, we're going to look at four different headlines from this week. The first one, there's two that we're going to look at. The why inflation is falling, but prices are still rising. Inflation 2023, when will prices stop going up? There's a lot of headlines around this same theme right now that we're going to talk about today. And I'm going to tell you a quick story. There's a donut shop here in town, right across the street from my office, that I'm a big fan of, and I've been a big fan of for a long time. Local place that has lots of locations now, and I've gotten donuts there for probably 10 or 15 years. And I took my 4-year-old daughter there Saturday morning, and we're standing in line waiting to get our donuts, and I realized that they look really small. Like, they've gotten a lot smaller. I mean, they're like, for a cake donut, like 2 bites maybe. They've just gotten shockingly small. And so we get up to the counter and order our donuts. And when you order donuts, you don't typically look at the price. It's like it's a donut. It's always going to be around the same price. And we go to check out, and our total is like $5.80. The donuts are $2.50 each plus taxes, and I'm sure there's some sort of EV green energy charge on every donut now or something. And the total was almost $6 for two minuscule donuts. And there's two things going on there. Both inflation and shrinkflation are happening. And inflation, people look at the price of things going up and they say that's inflation. Inflation is the prices going up. But that's not what inflation is. Inflation doesn't mean increasing prices. Inflation means an increase in the money supply. And as there's more money printed, then it takes more of those dollars to afford something. And so when somebody says there's, car inflation or food inflation or gas inflation or whatever, they don't understand what the term inflation means. Or they're trying to hyper localize inflation into one category, and that's just not how it works. And so you make a ton of money, and it takes a lot more of those monies to buy things. In this case, it takes more monies to buy donuts. And then the second one is shrinkflation. And we're seeing a lot of that in grocery stores where they'll keep the cost the same or maybe raise it a little bit, but they'll decrease the size of the item they're giving you. So you might have paid 99 cents for a can of Campbell's chicken noodle soup a couple of years ago, and they might try to keep it at 99 cents, but give you a can that's half the size. And so that they can trick the consumer into thinking they're not actually paying more when in reality they are. And the interesting thing with all these articles is that a lot of people are hearing the Fed talk about inflation getting better in heavily manipulated numbers. We won't get into that today. But they're looking at their grocery bills, and they're looking at their monthly expenses, and they're looking at their bank account and their credit card statements, and they're saying, this isn't adding up. I don't see it. Like, I don't feel the relief that you're talking about. And we're seeing that show up in so many places, but one of the places we're seeing it is just skyrocketing credit card debt, the highest in history. And when you have the highest in history of credit card debt, and you have interest rates that are going up significantly, which those credit card rates are variable, so it causes the interest on that credit card bill to go up as well, people are in a lot of pain right now. And they're not really buying the government telling them that things are so great. Because the message that people are getting over and over again is, you're doing great. You're fine. This is getting better. You're feeling a lot healthier. And the American consumer is saying, I don't know who you're talking to, but I'm not. So anyways, that's the first thing we're seeing in a lot of articles right now. Second article we're going to go to is the number of Americans filing for unemployment went down a lot in the past week. And unexpectedly. People really expected that unemployment numbers would continue to go up. And we're seeing an interesting thing right now in that is that employment numbers are going down and welfare numbers are going up. And typically in a good economy, you'll see the opposite. You'll see unemployment go down, and you'll see welfare numbers go up. And typically when there's a lot of when we're in this type of environment where things are relatively healthy, we will see welfare numbers down. And it's interesting to see. I mean, the post-COVID war on work that we saw, where a lot of people just gave up and said, you know what, I don't really like work. I think I'd rather sit at home and do nothing and collect money. Unfortunately, that's the sign of a pretty unstable, unhealthy economy, and we're starting to see a lot of that. So this is not a good sign. The low unemployment numbers are typically looked at as a reason to think really highly of the economy, and they're typically overlooking the reality that while there is low unemployment, there's super high welfare numbers right now, which is not an encouraging thing. Third thing we're going to look at is home builder confidence. There's been a couple articles this week about builder confidence going up for the 7th consecutive month, which is a good sign. Builders are feeling good right now because they recognize that there's not a lot of resale opportunities out there for buyers. And so new construction is the best bet for a lot of buyers right now. It's a great chance for you to get really comfortable with working with builders and the new construction process, maybe build some relationships there. New construction is certainly going to be a key piece for the foreseeable future because that's where the inventory is. So with how low inventory is, we certainly have a lot of buyers looking toward new construction. So, and then last thing we'll look at is the last headline from this week: mortgage applications increased by 1.1%. So this article has some quotes from Joel Kahn, the Mortgage Bankers Association Vice President and Deputy Chief Economist. And one of his quotes in response to the mortgage applications increasing, I don't know why my camera went out for this one, but he said home purchase activity is still being held back by low housing supply and rates that are still much higher than a year ago. And so it's important to know that, yes, buyers are feeling a little bit better. They're a little bit more willing to apply for that loan, but they're still feeling pretty squeezed by where interest rates are today. Let's zoom in a little bit more to the Denver metro area where a lot of us watching are focusing on. And interesting numbers we're looking at. This is from the last 7 days. So 1,437 new listings, 1,396 price decreases, and 1,388 under contract. So basically, about 1,400 that are new, about 1,400 that are price decreases, and about 1,400 that are that go under contract, and only under 1,200 that actually closed. So we got about 30% of inventory that's going under contract. We got about 30% that is getting a price reduction. And then we got about 40% that's still sitting active, either because it was just listed or because it's been sitting around for a while. But in general, we're seeing about 30% of that inventory move each week. So, and then as we look at 1,400 new listings versus just under 1,200 closings, we're definitely seeing a path towards an increase in inventory. If that continues weeks, months in a row, obviously we see inventory continue to rise. So it can certainly be helpful because that's great news. A lot of buyers' biggest issue right now is they're just not loving what they're seeing out there. There's not a lot of options. So definitely good news. Let's look at rates real quick, and then we'll talk about the end of this week or into next week. So here's rates for the last week. We saw rates move down pretty steadily in the last 7, 8, 9 days. And then a lot of that was given back yesterday. But if we can zoom in here, let's see how much we can zoom in here. So as we were looking at early July, I mean, we saw rates start to get relatively high here, 7.22, 7.14 for the mortgage bankers, or for the Mortgage News Daily average. And we gave a lot of that back on this little stretch here, but they came down pretty sizably, and we've seen that show up in mortgage applications, which we just talked about. So this is encouraging, and a lot of this is building up to the Fed's next meeting, which is the 26th. And this is, so 5 days, 3 hours from now. And there is a 99.8% chance that the Fed funds rate will raise a quarter basis point. That's a pretty good chance. 99.8% is pretty solid. So I would say we certainly are in a position now where we need to be ready for higher for longer rates through the winter. So this mid sevens rate through winter until something breaks or until we get to maybe a spot in the spring where inflation somehow does seem to be coming down more, like true inflation, and the Fed can start decreasing. But I think the warning for a lot of people right now is that if you were sitting around waiting for rates to come down this year, don't hold your breath. Be prepared for rates to stick around in the sevens. And so if you're a buyer, buy now and lock it in a little bit lower. If you're a seller, I would say be ready to hang on until spring or get rid of it now. Really depends on your timeline. But if your timeline is wait 3 or 4 months until things get better, you need to be ready to wait more like 6 to 12 months until things get better, rate-wise, buyer confidence-wise, qualification-wise, things like that. So there you go. That is the week. My goal is to keep it under 10 minutes, and we did it. So have a great weekend. See you later.